This is perfect that we're doing this in Irvine, you know, in the center that you...
right across the street from Green Tree. There
right,
you go.
right. So then, growing up in Irvine, how did you find punk rock? I'm assuming there was a record, because there was a record store here, Pure...
Down the street, Pure Records. I mean, come on, you got Brian Chu, you got Farside, you got Zach, Inside Out, Hard Stance. Irvine was like a breeding ground of punk rock. So, not really, but there was definitely a part of the scene here. So.
But how do you find it though? Because you weren't, like, you know what I mean? You've never been a scene head. That was always something. I remember when I first met you, that was the line that you gave me. I'm not a scene head.
So I was into like Black Flag and Bad Religion.
How'd you get into that?
Just record stores up in LA, you know.
Were you going to those stores a lot?
My uncle, who I'm named after, who passed away, God rest his soul, he didn't really work. He just would fix stuff. He'd go and trade and barter. So he had all this credit at all the record stores. So whenever I'd go to LA, he'd say, "Let's go," and I'd be like, "Cha-ching," and it would literally, I'd walk out with just any vinyl I wanted. That's how I got into Verbal Assault, you know. And then meeting Jeff, you know, in junior high. I think the first introduction, was kind of Instead. That was kind of our personal connection.
Really?
I remember talking to, you know, Kevin Stead and Jeff.
But what was it about Instead? Was it the positivity? Was it
I think
that
so.
Message?
So I mean, I think, you know, 7 Seconds was shortly after, and Descendants, but like 7 Seconds was really, you know, Uniform Choice. Those were the bands, and those, you know, Uniform Choice was local. I mean, it's Huntington Beach, Irvine, all the different crews, you know, the Costa Mesa. That's how we, you know, kind of get indoctrinated into it. Am I looking at you, or am I looking right here?
No, me's fine. So then where do your sensibilities towards public service come from? Because I have to believe you were into that before getting into punk, or did they kind of dovetail, like?
So I think my music's always, you know, gone hand in hand with youth development. I mean, we want to have a positive message in music. You know, Gameface, you know, we could sing about, you know, Interchange or Chocolate Cake, but, you know, I'm just saying, like, the whole positivity, you know, again, getting back to 7 Seconds, you know, Uniform Choice, you know, Dag Nasty, I mean, huge. So all that kind of, we want to make our lives count. And I think for me, that was something that I learned really early on. You know, I worked with youth in, you know, inner city youth in Los Angeles. I was there during the riots, and it really kind of, you know, I thought I was open-minded when I moved to LA, and I was not. And then LA, that's where I kind of cut my teeth. And then, are we mentioning people in this broadcast?
It's up to you. I mean, totally up to you.
I mean, Regis from Course of Disapproval, I think in '96, hired me at the Boys and Girls Club, and you know, that's my 26th year there, actually. So 2 days ago was my 8th year anniversary of being CEO. So something I'm pretty proud of. So you know, want to make a change in people's lives, and it's not just kids anymore, it's families, especially last couple of years with the pandemic. It's a big deal. So something that's always been important to me, I know resonated with Jeff, you know, early on, and then just the whole tragedy of, you know, if people don't know Gameface, just with Bob, our original drummer, you know, having addiction issues and killing himself tragically, like lighting himself on fire at noon, middle of the day at a gas station. So I think that was something I wanted to pass on, like, hey, do not be like my friend Bob, to all these teens that I've worked with over the years. So
did anything about growing up in Irvine, because, like, you know, when you're younger, to me, it's like this great place to rebel against, but then I think as you get older, that kind of changes, just because you change, and we all change. But did anything about living in Irvine kind of push you more towards sort of that social wanting to kind of do that, like seeing maybe what you were living around and seeing what other people didn't have and wanting to maybe give them that?
Unfortunately, no. But I'm saying, when I moved to LA and I was living in the inner city, I mean, like, I remember I was skateboarding one night and the police pulled up and were like, put the light on me, and what are you doing? I was like, I'm not doing anything. And they were like, no, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm not doing anything, I'm just, you know, freaking skateboarding. And they're like, no, what are you doing here? I was like, I live right here. And they're like, why? And I'm like, what do you mean, why? And that's like a memory I distinctively have of, they're like, this isn't a safe neighborhood. And I was like, dude, like, you're telling me all this stuff that, like, I already know. And that was kind of like how, again, I got started, and LA really opened my eyes to just, you know, just the realities. I had to really reset my thinking. You know, growing up in Irvine, it was like a white male. you know, thinking, oh, the world's great, you know, and it's fair, and there's, you know, and there's no racism, like, you know, like, look at Irvine, and you get to LA, and it just, all that was a really good beginning for me, and a good kind of, oops, sorry,
No, it's fine.
a good pillar for, I guess, my career.
So then, before Gameface, can you tell us a little bit about, you weren't in No Such Thing, were you?
No, I was in Ourselves with Jeff.
Named after...
Which I just got the tape set last week. Jason
which is
Hoffman.
named after the 7 Seconds
Yes.
album.
So that's probably the only copy out there after 30 years. But yeah, so we did, you know, that band, and then graduation.
And was that just a high school band?
Yeah, it was a high school
by
band.
just a high school band, I mean like that was only done.
So we wrote our
in
own
high school.
songs, you know. We thought we were, you know, it was great. We covered a Uniform Choice song, and just, yeah, that's what we did. And then we met Bob and Paul
And how'd you meet those guys?
at a Big Drill concert, concert up in Anti-Club. Remember that?
You just started talking to those guys at the
I
Untitled
think
Club?
Jeff met Paul at the show, and then he said, "Hey, I met these guys. Like, we should go jam with them because they, you know, drummer and bass player." So we're like, right on. So went and had our first Gameface practice in Anaheim, and I think we wrote like 2 songs that day, and we were off and running. So
Well, see, that gets me to my question. When did you realize with Gameface, like, hey, you know, we have something here. Like, this isn't going to be a high school band. This is gonna be something bigger than that. Like, was it when you did those 2 songs? Was it when you did the Puzzle 7-inch? Like, what? Your demo?
yes, hello, we're doing the interview. Like, they could be part of it. I think if I'm going to fast forward a pinch, which you may or may not be looking for.
No, whatever.
After,
we're gonna do more
after
interviews.
3 to Get Ready came out,
Yeah.
and I remember we were like on tour, and the lines started being around the building, and all the shows were full, and that was really when I was like, God, there's like a line around the building to see us. And my friend Pat, in Pennsylvania, said, you know, I skipped my SATs, you know, to come see you guys, and I've had this lifelong friendship with him, and that was kind of when. I think though, for us with Gameface, we were kind of power pop. We weren't, you know, hardcore. We, you know, Jeff and I were thoroughly into the hardcore scene, but you know, we also grew up loving Cheap Trick, you know, and the Descendants, you know, and that kind of direction. And I think we did have something a little different from a lot of the other bands, you know. But then you meet like bands like Farside, and you're like, God, we are not masters of our craft, like Farside, you know, Inside Out.
But the beauty was you didn't need to be. You guys could coexist. Like Gameface
Right,
and
right.
Farside was a good show, and it wasn't like seeing the same style of music.
Correct. So what fascinates me is, I don't know, for the first 2 years of Gameface, like when we were doing demos and stuff, I didn't know how to play any octave chords. I remember one night, like Zach from Inside Out was like, you know how to play octave chords? I was like, I don't. And he showed me, and I was like, dude, that's amazing. And then, you know, if you follow Gameface, everything I played became octaves. Like, that's all I play. So I think our music, like I said, our band was different, but then once we played with like Farside and stuff, we're like, oh geez, like I'm a terrible hack of a guitar player, you know. But so I think we always had kind of a different knack, and it was either loved or hated, I think. So
What was it like? And guys, I just have 2 more questions, so I thank you, Steve, for bearing with me. What was it like recording the Puzzle 7-inch? Because I know you guys did some demos. It was a Streets of Justice demo. I don't know if it was called
that's
that.
actually on the Ourselves tape too, a different
okay.
version, which is amazing. I used, which I have in my garage, the Zoom. So before the pandemic and Zoom video conferencing, I had the Zoom. It was like a Walkman size, and it was digital programmable sound. So kind of like, I guess, GarageBand now. But so the Zoom, and that's what I used on that 7-inch. So that guitar sound is completely manufactured, and I didn't have like a half stack or anything. I had a Roland Jazz chorus, which I wish I still had today. But yeah, so that was the first 7-inch, and you know, it's a good collection of songs. And
Was there, you know, that ending little thing that you guys do where it sounds like Jeff's saying Bob, and you guys are ending, and then Bob's whacking on the drum?
he says E.
E.
We just play the, you know, hardcore,
Yeah.
play E.
Okay, so that's all that was that. Gotcha. So, do you remember anything about maybe the lack of time when you did that 7-inch? Maybe lack of money, or was it not?
Oh, I would say like almost probably every band that's been on your, you know, either in your movies or documentaries or on this interview, you know, we'd start at, you know, 11 o'clock at night and go till 6 a.m. and just ready, go, and just press record. And I mean, it wasn't lay out the drums first. It was kind of all live and that. So that's how it was even 3 to get ready. I remember the big Rock and Roll Swindle. Like, we'd record all night. I would literally get home at like 7 a.m. I'd go to sleep. I worked in this, you know, at the time in this office building, but it was like 20 stories, and so no one. That
wasn't the bartering company.
No. No one really knew like where anyone was. So Kukla would cover for me if someone would ask for me. Let me get Todd, and then I'd come into work around 5, literally say, hey, be seen by my boss, and I'd go to the studio at like, you know, 8 o'clock, and we did that, and I just remember thinking, oh my God, it worked. Like,
this was like the same job.
Punk one, yes.
Where you would stay at my house for like 2 hours and rest.
I was not a good employee. This is pre-youth development.
Yes.
It was actually, yes, it was, yeah, that was an interesting time,
So, thinking about recording that 7-inch, the 7-inch is done. Was that, do you remember, was that already gonna be on Nemesis, or did it get on Nemesis after? Because I think Frank got interested in you guys from your demo.
We had a demo, he heard it, and then said, hey, would love to put something out.
Right.
So we did a 7-inch. Our first show you were at was at Long Beach, Cal State Long Beach. The Nugget was like our official, and so quite a scene being in this like Saved by the Bell type cafeteria with Big Frank there, and Gameface's first show. That was pretty something else. So, yeah.
So last question.
And I think we got a free T-shirt that said "End Racism," Nemesis Records, and like a handshake, and that was our payment as the truck goes by.
As the truck goes by. So then, looking towards good, and that's a whole other interview I want to do with you, because I have a lot of questions. I want to kind of go through more with the songs.
Back here?
Oh yeah.
At this spot?
Only at this spot. The idea of recording a 12-inch, because I know that would be important to you, just because you're a record guy, like in terms of how important a lot of records have been used. 7 Seconds, MIA, like a lot of stuff. So looking towards the idea of recording good, just the idea of it, after doing a 7-inch, what did you want to accomplish with a 12-inch? Like in your mind, like for Gameface, or just for yourself, or both?
I mean, I think it was just the whole process of recording and having an album out, you know. Like the 7-inch was awesome, and then oh my God, we're gonna do a full-length record, so that was awesome. I don't think, you know, I didn't have a lot of expectations. We were all thoroughly involved with the band. I mean, it was like a daily thing. But like, you know, I did take my lead, and still do, from Jeff. I mean, Jeff has this unique ability to write, you know, and the songwriting and the process, and just, you know, in my opinion, his unique, you know, lyrics to some extent, and just, so I think it was just, let's go. Like, even when we went on our first and second and third tours, just, oh, we're going this month. We got a van. We just jump in and literally, you know, had like a duffel bag of clothes, and that was that. So,
last thing, before you guys recorded good, you demoed it on a boombox, and you came over to my house with the demo, and we were listening to it. I loved it, and I said to you, what if after, because you guys were gonna go to For the Record, that was a big deal. You're gonna record with E, and it was gonna be this thing, and I remember saying to you, what if after all that it just sounds like this recording? And I remember you saying, I would quit. Do you remember that at all?
I don't. I do remember it being like 7 a.m. and like E calling my house, and I'm like, hello? And it's like, hey, what are you doing? Hey, you want to come in the studio? And I got like 10 mixes of Organization. And I was like, yeah. And I remember going down there, and like, it was awesome. So that was really that was a really good process, you know. So,
not to get too into that record, I also remember when you were finishing up the record, going in to do the final mix, he texted you, and you had like a calling service or whatever it was, and it said, let's make a record.
Yeah. So I had like this pager, but it would like digitally print your message that you would leave. So I had that up until we toured in Ireland, and then someone ganked it right off my out of my pocket. So yeah.